elections. We have somebody who has been on the platform before, but an extremely erudite and dynamic person, very, very concerned about Nigeria, an activist, a politician, a nationalist, and above all, a lawyer. Mr. Femi Falana, our guest today, was born on the 20th of May, 1958, and a native of Ekiti State. Primary school in Ilawe, and then studied law, University of Ife, called to the bar, started his own chambers, and then became a great activist. Very, very concerned about Nigeria, and also the father of also a reputable activist who goes by the name Files, who was very, very dynamic a couple of years ago, when people were protesting against police brutality in Nigeria. My brother Femi Falana, you need no further introduction. I will not waste people's time telling them who you are. Your name speaks for itself. You are most welcome, and thank you very, very much for agreeing to be with us on the platform today. How is Nigeria? That's my first question.
Well, Nigeria is on the brinks of collapse security-wise. It does appear, without any equivocation, I can say that the regime has almost lost the control of monopoly of violence to armed gangs and terrorists. And the first characteristic of any stable polity is the ability to control the monopoly of violence. Once it is lost to criminal gangs and elements, such a state may be nearing failure. In other words, Nigeria is competing very, very seriously with failed states, whereby, and I think it was the governor of Niger State that won a few months ago, was warning the people in Abuja that Niger State is very close to Abuja, and that some parts of the state have already been overrun by terrorists. Of course, now we're almost back to 2014.
Hello, George.
Terrorists took over Abuja, attacked the police headquarters, attacked United Nations office and several places in Abuja, which also has happened in Kuje prison, Kuje Correctional Center yesterday. By the way, I can say this without any fear of contradiction that Kuje is the most secured correctional center in Nigeria. I was detained there in 1992. I was also detained there in 1993, together with the late Chief Gani Fawemi and the late Dr. Bekor and Somkuti. So I know the terrain very well. And it's a secured prison where people considered dangerous by the governments are kept. And that is why the prison has been hosting some terrorists or terror suspects. But with what happened yesterday, we're told that for 3 hours, a gang of terrorists operated in Abuja, took over the prison, released the terrorists that were detained, flung open the prison doors to all the inmates that wanted to escape, and quite a number escaped. And of course, caused extensive damage, burned vehicles. They operated for about 3 hours. They even recorded, the criminal elements recorded the attack on the correctional center. Almost simultaneously, there was also a bomb attack or a terrorist attack on the convoy, advanced convoy of the president, who they must have confirmed, the terrorists will be going to Daura for his Pasala. So they also attacked and killed some people. In Abuja, they killed about 5, at least officially. But 2 things have stood out. And this is, you be the worrisome aspect. It's been now confirmed that 24 hours before the attack, the soldiers that were maintaining security around the correctional center were withdrawn. 2, the man has come out this afternoon, Mr. Mamu, to say that he knew of the attack in advance and he shared intelligence, reports with the relevant agencies. And of course, from what happened now, the intelligence report was not acted upon, and that was his own point, that his advice or his intelligence report was ignored, and that was why we had this disaster of yesterday, right? Again, this should not be surprising to us, because according to Mr. Mamu, it is the same people, the same gang of terrorists that attacked the train, the Kaduna Abuja train about 3 months ago. And up to this morning, scores of passengers have not been released. But just like in this case, it was also established at the material time, as I did point out, that was a case of criminal negligence on the part of certain officials of the government, because the then Minister of Transportation did say publicly that if his recommendation had been acted upon, i.e. that they had recommended a contractor to fix security surveillance on the plane, on the train, that if that had happened, the incident would not have occurred. Again, you can only say that in Nigeria, to say that I know that a disaster was going to happen, since the contractor I recommended, who was not qualified, was rejected, without telling us whether you recommended another competent one, But just like in that case, this one has also shown the case of total negligence, I would say criminal negligence on the part of the government. But for the first time, President Muhammadu Buhari visited the scene of the disaster yesterday. That was the first time he would visit a scene of disaster in the country. And I guess he did that because he was traveling out of the country, so that he won't be accused of insensitivity. All the same, the president traveled, whereas in some parts of the world, even if the president was out of the country, a disaster of that nature might have sent him packing and might have brought him home, but not in Nigeria. So, Pastor, this is where we are. It does appear now that everybody is on its own and God is for all of us. The government has shown its incompetence to secure the life and property of every citizen. The challenge before us is what can be done. In frustration, the governor of Zamfara last Sunday did ask citizens or people in that state to apply for police permit to bear arms. When a state gets to that level, they're simply telling the people that the instrument of coercion and custody of the government, has been hijacked by terrorists and other criminal elements. So the situation on our hands calls for a very serious review of the security architecture of the state, and for Nigerians to decide on what to do with regards to their own security. Thank you very much, Pastor.
Thank you very, very much, my dear brother. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's very, very graphic and very, very succinct as to what's going on in Nigeria. Can you adjust your camera a little bit so that we can see your full face? Or you lean back a little and just, yes.
I said that you are giving me an assignment. I have to admit everybody coming in. Can somebody else take up that assignment?
Yeah, they will do it in the back office. Don't bother yourself. I think it's because you're a whatever they call it, co-administrator. So just ignore that.
All right.
Yeah, good. So what do we do in Nigeria now that you say that our government has shown its incompetence?
Well, for me, I think number one.
Peter Obi was saying on, right. He was saying that the economy is about to collapse.
Yeah. I'm saying that number one, we have to sensitize people to appreciate the enormity of the level of insecurity in the country. We must sensitize Nigerians to know that we're in a state of danger. Number two, we have to mobilize citizens and groups to pressurize the government. And I'm talking of the government in Abuja and the states to urgently address the increasing wave of insecurity in Nigeria. Thirdly, we should not support the reckless call for resort to self-defense because it is very dangerous. Once you license everybody to bear arms, there's no way you can control the state of anarchy and chaos that we may descend to. And that is what is happening in America. This year alone, there have been over 400 mass shootings in America because everybody is authorized to bear arms, including madmen, people who are not really mentally okay. And once you descend to that level, there are problems. So we must frontally confront the government because by virtue of Section 14, subsection 2B of the Constitution, the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And if the government cannot secure the welfare and security of our people, we should collectively decide or insist that the government will have to resign. And if we continue to make concrete demands, mobilize the National Assembly people, this is the time for all of us to recall, for those of us in Lagos, the 24 members of the House of Reps, the 3 senators, we must call them to constituency meetings and challenge them to ensure that there is protection for each and every one of us. At the level of the state government, we must also mobilize our people in Lagos to pressurize the state government or the state government to secure the life and property of every citizen. If what happened in Ituah a few weeks ago had happened in some of those massive religious gatherings in Lagos, you can imagine the level of disaster that will have occurred. But we don't have to wait. Right now, we must insist, just like the Ondo State government has been forced to announce, that in all public gatherings, there must be screening machines. People must be screened. Again, we have got to the stage where we must compel governments to install CCTV cameras all over the place. And finally, we must ensure that the governors are led to their responsibility. It's no longer enough to push these problems, to Abuja. We've elected governors in the country. They collect security vote monthly, running to hundreds of millions of naira. This is the time to demand accountability. This is the time to insist that appropriate security gadgets are acquired, because in this age and time, security is technology driven. We can't go back to asking Motekun people to be using their guns. No. My position is that if individuals can be permitted to acquire license, to acquire guns, to protect themselves and members of their family, for me, it is illogical, almost discriminating and illegal to say that the Lagos state government cannot acquire 10,000 licenses for guns to equip the neighborhood watch. In other words, if an individual can ask for a license to acquire guns to protect his family, what should stop the government, Lagos state government, from acquiring 10,000 licenses to arm young men and women to defend over 20 million people in Lagos? For me, this is the time, this is no longer, we no longer have the luxury of complaining or blaming our fate, whatever. No, this is not the time to abuse anybody. This is the time to make concrete demands. This is the time to get government to be responsive and responsible. This is the time to pressurize government to take the security of our people very serious, as well as welfare. The Constitution didn't just put welfare and security. What the Constitution is saying, physical security is one thing, social security is another. The young men and women who are passing out of school in their thousands yearly, the government must create an enabling environment for them to be productively engaged. And that is why the question of welfare is there. The government must combat insecurity, the government must combat poverty and promote prosperity of our people. Thank you very much. Yes, Pastor, am I clear? I'm sure you could hear me. Wow.
Okay, sorry. I don't know if Pastor Ituah is frozen.
Okay, I will log him in now.
Okay, I think Pastor Ituah is frozen. Let's just give him.
Are we okay now?
To come back. Let's give him a few minutes. He will soon be back.
All right.
Yeah. So. Okay, PFA, you want to ask a question or you want to make a contribution? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, Pastor, are you back?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, PFA.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much for the update about Nigeria. We always respect you and we always honor you. Let me just go to the point straight.
Thank you, sir.
How did Nigeria get to this point, to this level?
Well, we got to this level because of our collective, I would say, majority of us have given up on the country. Others believe that whoever is in power is put there by the Almighty God. Therefore, we shouldn't challenge the authorities. And because Nigerians have not been challenging impunity, misgovernance, wanting corruption and abuse of office, the government of the day believes nobody can challenge them. In recent time, the only time Nigerians rose up to challenge the government was in October 2020, when you had the NSAS protest. And you also how at a state the government said the young men and women wanted to overthrow it. And so soldiers had to be sent in the street to attack the young people. Some were killed, you know. But I have just discovered in the last couple of weeks that the government, both in Abuja and Lagos, just discovered that those young men and women have not been totally defeated. So unless we come out all the time to hold government accountable, for instance, all of us, we only discuss the budget of Abuja, the budget of the federal government. We do not discuss the budget of state government, particularly Lagos, which is the 5th largest economy in Africa. Most of us gathered in this forum do not know the legislators representing us or the councillors representing us. And so, because we have given up on governance, we have left those who are in power to do what they like. That is why we got to this mess that we have found ourselves.
So what do we do going forward? And how do you think, this government, see what they did to those children. These children lost their lives, very, very traumatic. And they tend to stamp down on everybody. I know it's cost you personally a lot to take your position. If they don't attack you physically, they attack you financially, they attack your business, they attack your well-being, they send the FCC after you, and blah, blah, blah. And now they went after the poor children. What do we do in a situation like that? See, Boris Johnson resigned because people put him under pressure. Those sort of things can probably hardly ever happen in Nigeria. So what is your thinking?
Well, let me just let you know what I learned from some of those young people. My son was involved in the leadership of that struggle. And after the shooting we're discussing, and I was trying to advise whether they could change their tactics. And the young man told me, Dad, you fear that many of us may also be killed like our colleagues. I say, yes. Say, you are right. But there are people who are being killed in Nigeria who didn't go to the street. People are dying in the hospital because there are no medical equipment or, drugs. People are dying on the roads because the roads are bad. People are being killed in their homes by robbers, by terrorists and kidnappers. And therefore, if we all simply say, we don't want any of us to die, they will kill all of us by instrument. While I'm not calling for cheap heroism, there are ways we can fight without really getting them to kill us. Okay, again, the young men and women wanted to mark 1 year anniversary of the NSAS protest. And the police, the government threatened to deal ruthlessly with them if you gather, if you have another protest. And what did they do? Because these are not the normal protesters. These are people you may regard to as the Novo-Rich in Lekki. What did they do? They simply drove to the venue that they chose, which is the Lekki toll gate. And for over 30 minutes, well, just blowing the horns of their cars. And the police and the other security agencies were taken aback. But as far as they were concerned, they made their point. The point I'm making here is that there is insecurity all over the country. We have people claim to be representing us in Lagos, 27 of them in Abuja, 24 House of Rep members, 3 senators. We are not asking questions from them. There are 40 legislators in Alausa, members of the House of Assembly. There are 20 councillors, chairmen. There are 37 chairmen, of local government, and then of CDAs, whatever they call them. Now, I am saying that we should now, after today, first of all, know who is representing us in Lagos and Abuja, summon them to constituency meetings and challenge them. We didn't elect you, or rather, to just go to Abuja and be collecting money. Our security is in danger. What can you do? Unless we begin to do that, and once we can start in Lagos, other parts of the country, other states, will also want to follow. They want to emulate what we're doing here. From there, we can begin to let these guys know that we are not a conquered people, but right now we are behaving like a conquered people. And as they say in Latin America, a people united can never be defeated. And so, I mean, look at what the young people are doing by simply getting artists to say, we want to stage free concerts so that we can mobilize young men and women to register, so that we can mobilize Nigerians to register. And that is going on to the extent that a faction of the ruling class became worried and they try to frustrate registration by people. So we can no longer afford to keep silent or leave a few pastors, Ituahs and others, to continue the task of mobilizing people to resist oppression in our country, to reject oppression. So my position therefore is that let us get organized. Professionals in particular, let us get organized in this country. And we have done it before. The human rights community collaborated with concerned professionals, Pastor Ituah, Olisa Agbakoba, Patu Tomi and others. All of us came together to say enough was enough. And we can do that now. And we need to do that more than ever before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want us to look at the Electoral Act, the interpretations and what it means for our politics today, the implications and the impact. First of all, what do you think of that Electoral Act? Can it deliver the goods as it is? And what does it mean for the voter? What should they note? And what does it mean for those who are running for office?
Thank you very much. As you are well aware, in 2007, we had a very terrible election. That was when President Obasanjo proclaimed that the election of that year was going to be a do-or-die battle for the ruling party, that's the PDP. The election was so badly conducted that people who never contested the election were declared winners of the election. The man who became the president, the late Umaru Yar'Adua, admitted publicly that the election that brought him to power was highly flawed, but he wouldn't want it to happen again. So he set up a panel of inquiry to investigate the electoral process. And the panel was headed by a retired Chief Justice, Mohammed Owais. And the panel did a thorough job. At the end of the day, the panel made some profound recommendations. By the time the panel submitted this report, the late Yar'Adua had passed on. President Jonathan received the report, but the PDP government then didn't adopt those provisions that could really guarantee credible elections in Nigeria. And some of those recommendations up to now have not been accepted. One of the recommendations is that the election managers shall not just be appointed by the government. There will be advertisements for competent people to apply. Members of the public will find out who they are, make comments on their candidature or their integrity, and then the NJC, that is the National Judicial Council, will shortlist the candidates that will eventually be interviewed and recommended for appointment. That was not accepted. The other one, which has not been accepted, is that because of impunity elections are rigged. The police make some arrests. Those who are arrested are taken to court. Quietly, the attorneys general in the states will withdraw those cases by filing application for nolle prosequi. And that will be the end of the matter. And so, criminality witnessed during election continue. Violence continue. Killings continue during election. Snatching of ballot boxes. Declaration of fake or false results continued. And what was the panacea? What was the recommendation? An electoral offences tribunal shall be set up to deal with electoral offenders alone, because we want to have credible elections. That was rejected. But by and by, INEC has been trying, based on pressure from the civil society, as well as what happens in other parts of the world, including African countries. So INEC has brought up suggestions. We've been fighting to have proper Electoral Act. The Buhari regime rejected not less than 4 versions of the Electoral Act before reluctantly signing the 2022 bill into law. The 2022 Act, largely, is a replica of the 2010 Electoral Act as amended. But there are some developments. I can tell you, the law is being violated by the electoral body INEC, as well as political parties already. I'll just give you some instances. Under Section 10 of the law, registration of voters shall be a continuous exercise. Section 10 subsection 1. Section 9 subsection 6 provides that before election, INEC shall stop registration of voters 90 days, not earlier than 90 days to election, so that the register can be well prepared for the election. But what did INEC do a few months ago? Is to say, we are stopping registration by 30th of June. So there was a lot of scrambling all over them. I think Sarah, an NGO, went to court. No, you cannot stop registration now. You can't do that until about November or thereabout. INEC is in court with Sarah. But in the interim, the EU supported young people, some young artists, to stage some concert, one in Lagos, one in Abuja, to mobilize people to register. INEC was then compelled there to announce, I think in Lagos, that we're extending the period for registration. Number 2, why the debate was going on to have a new law? Majority of people wanted direct primaries so that all members of political parties can choose the candidates. For the legislators or in governors and particularly said no. Let us make it indirect or by consensus. Indirect, we have delegates, very easy to bribe, and that is what we witnessed in Abuja. The primaries of both the PDP and APC was a bazaar. I mean, the primaries were turned to bazaars where you had to, where the highest bidders carried the day. And we're not talking of Naira now. As you're all aware, dollars were mopped up in town and freely distributed. And I think during the week of the primaries, the dollar was exchanging for about 620 naira, you know. I don't know how much now, you know. But that is what, it's not allowed under the Electoral Act. There's no provision for purchase of votes. In fact, it's a serious criminal offense under the Electoral Act. But since we are dealing with members of the ruling class, due to class solidarity, even though the EFCC, some EFCC officials were the Eagle Square, at the end of the day, no arrests were made. So, at the highest level of political parties, the Electoral Act or the provisions are already being violated. The other point, which will interest you, is that we have a very comprehensive Electoral Act, right together with the relevant provisions of the Constitution. We should have fair and free elections, credible elections. But again, as I said earlier, our country is run by members of the ruling class that have contempt for the rule of law, contempt for constitutionalism, and therefore, what they are doing now is Section 29 of the Electoral Act provides that there shall be primaries. Instead of the primaries in many areas, they say, no, our candidates have been matched by consensus. Consensus without consent. You know, candidates are imposed by leaders, and they say it's by consensus. And you cannot go to court. If you go to court, they expel you from the party. But we have the primaries. INEC is required by the Electoral Act to monitor the primaries at a lot of cost to the nation. So when INEC goes to monitor election, it's supposed to prepare a report. You know the winners, you register your report in Abuja. What has happened is that aspirants who never took part in primaries have had their name published in Abuja by INEC, names sent to INEC by political parties. And I have come out to challenge INEC. No, you are not just asked to monitor the elections for the joke, for the sake of it. You are supposed to say, sorry, these names you have brought are strange. These candidates did not take part in valid primaries, so we cannot publish their names. That was the initial position. No, the initial position of INEC is that our hands are tied. We're like a robot. Whatever they bring, we publish. We said no. Look at the relevant provisions of the Constitution, particularly Section 285 of Section 13 and 14 provides that the decision of INEC on nomination, on election, can be challenged by aggrieved aspirant or political party. So your hands are not tied. I'm sure you are aware of the prayer to publish the name of the Senate President, Senator Akpabio and others, who never took part in senatorial primary. Because at the time, all of us knew that they wanted to be, the contestant for presidential primaries of the APC. By that time, senatorial candidates are the mark. But this guy wanted to use their position and the party leadership endorsed the legality and asked INEC to publish. And INEC was going to publish before some of us had to intervene. And we had then told INEC, don't publish their name. Let them sue you. But don't say they should go to court. Those who have been illegally substituted should go to court. No, it should be the other way around. And so I think that is the present position of INEC. But in spite of that, many names were smuggled into the list. We're only talking of the well-known ones, but many cases are already in court now. Since last week, because you have 14 days within which to go to court. And as I'm talking to you, there are thousands of people, candidates and lawyers, who had besieged INEC office, because I think tomorrow is the closing day, so that they can have the report or certified true copies of the published list. And and you are going to have hundreds of cases, totally unnecessary, if we are following the law. So Nigeria records the highest number of pre-election cases in the world.
Muted, sir.
You are muted, sir.
Unmute yourself.
Hello, son. You are muted.
Unmute yourself.
Withdraw in advance, sign that you withdraw, so that when they impose a candidate on you and you go to court, they will simply bring up what you signed that you had already withdrawn, and then they put a date on it. So that's the kind of humiliation, that they give to people. Now, after settling the question of direct and indirect and consensus, another controversy had ensued over what they call, place, whatever, holders or whatever. I think about 3 or 4 political parties have nominated, presidential candidates have nominated vice presidential candidates in the interim, hoping that they will have more time for consultation with a view to submitting fresh nomination. Some lawyers have said that is illegal because it's unknown to law. It's not provided in the Electoral Act. With profound respect to those lawyers, the Electoral Act has not made any provision for a vice presidential candidate. It is the Constitution, particularly Section 142, that provides that before your nomination can be valid as a presidential candidate, you must nominate a vice presidential candidate. So if I nominate a vice presidential candidate today, and tomorrow is the closing day, if between now and tomorrow, it decides by an agreement that I am no longer going to be your vice presidential candidate, but you must sign a letter to that effect. It must not have been forced to do so. And once that is done, INEC will allow a replacement. And there's no problem with that. It's been done over the years, and I do hope this time around, nothing has changed to warrant, any controversy. The other point is that Section 114 to 129 of the Electoral Act 2020 provides for electoral offenses from fake registration, multiple registration, inducement of voters, and include inducement of voters done in primaries, inducement of voters done in election, as we witnessed in Ekiti last week, and which may be witnessed in Osun next week. And what will surprise you is that the bulk of the money being distributed in Abuja and elsewhere, in Ekiti and elsewhere, can be traced to the public purse. So it's public money that is being distributed to compromise our people, to dehumanize our people. You give 5,000 or 10,000 naira to a voter, and that's all you will have in 4 years. But because people have been so pauperized, because these guys have weaponized poverty, and they now believe that our people are very cheap. So, Pastor and all the distinguished delegates here, or guests here, you have your job cut out for you. You must engage in a thorough mobilization, a thorough enlightenment of our people, to let them know that those who are insulting you with 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira, are simply giving you your money. And that is all you are going to have from them in 4 years. And therefore, we must now ensure that the provisions of the law are followed to the letter. People were arrested in Ekiti last week. INEC and the EFCC have already gone quiet. It's now our duty to insist that before you go to Osun next week, 16th of July, you must charge before the court all those who were arrested in Ekiti. Because there is no, you can't say, oh, we are still engaging in some forensic investigation. The whole world saw how they were arrested with the aid of technology. So you paraded them already. So take them to court. Monday and Tuesday will be in public holiday. If they are not taken to court tomorrow, take them to court on Wednesday. So that will serve as a deterrent to those who may want to engage in such criminality during the governorship election in Osun State. Because one of the candidates has already said, that have come with dollars, pounds, and sterling. The candidate has already said that publicly. And you can know, as far as they are concerned, these guys are not contesting. They are not campaigning on the basis of programs. They are not campaigning on the basis of ideas. They are campaigning on the basis of money. And unless we are ready to push them, unless we are ready, it may be too late for Osun. But for the general election, we must all go out to get the media, to get CSOs, to get concerned citizens. Oh, wow.
We lost him. He's lost connection.
No, not exactly. I think he's doing something. I think something came up.
I said, oh, wow. Okay.
Like a child came in or something.
He's still on the call.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still there.
I think Yemisi wanted to ask a question. Yemisi, do you want to ask your question very quickly or make a comment?
Okay.
Tigwe, you have a comment to make? Oh, you can't unmute. Yemisi can't unmute.
Yeah, Yemisi has to raise up her hand so we can locate her easily.
She's raised up her hand.
Okay, we can unmute her if she has done that.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Okay.
Okay,
Good evening.
Tigwe. Okay, Tigwe, please let Yemisi ask her question. She's been raising up her hands for a few.
Okay.
Good evening, sir. Yeah,
Good evening.
it's been a privilege for me to always learn at the feet of our son. My question is permit me to deviate a little bit, sir, because it's something that's from my own research that has really helped King Solomon pull through in life. When you learn at the feet of elders, you go extra miles doing things that ordinary people within your age limit cannot do. My question here is that if Mohammed Yusuf, the founder of Boko Haram, does not have governmental backup, why is our government finding it difficult to peg him down the same way it took the American government the tactics and the means they took or they take at each time to peg down their terrorists? That's my first question. My second question is, from everything we've been seeing in Nigeria, what does the future hold for us as Nigerians in the aspect of terrorism, bad governance? Because it seems as time goes on, as each leaders erupt or come up, the problems or the issues we have in our country becomes deeper and deeper. How do we get out of it? What is the way forward? What does the future hold for us? That's my question.
Thank you very much. That is noted. Maybe Etigwe will get you to ask your question also and note them for our guests to respond to. Etigwe, or is it a comment you have?
Yeah, well, a comment and maybe a question for the learned senior advocate. Okay. If you look at the way the current Electoral Act is written, you would see that the drafting is a bit poor, with the greatest respect. You would see, for instance, in sections 30 and 31, they talk about nomination of candidates or nomination of aspirants. So if you want to run for the position of governor in the primaries of your state, 25 people have to nominate you from the different local governments. So there it talks about nominators. And then it makes several provisions about nominations. It then goes to section 35 and says that any double nomination, any candidate who allows himself to be nominated multiple times, either by different political parties or different constituencies, the nomination will be void. But if you read it further, it suggests that the nomination is talking about is a nomination where the political party itself sends your name to INEC. So there's a problem now. There are many people who have done primaries in one political party. They've been nominated by the nominators in that political party. They've lost, and then they've gone to another party. So what really is the question of double nomination? If you look at section 30, section 35, and if you look at section 115, subsection D, which criminalizes the idea of a candidate signing double nomination form. So is the nomination form here the nomination form you pick up for the purpose of being nominated, which is signed by nominators, or is it the nomination by the political party to INEC? I have a few more questions, but I think I should stop there.
Okay, thank you very much. Our learned son is back. Son, I don't know what happened there, but in your absence,
I'm fully back.
Yeah, fully back.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Well,
yes.
I think I will start with my learned brother.
Did you get your Mrs. question also?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you can respond to both.
Yeah, I'll start with my learned colleague, my learned brother, Sik, on double nomination. I think if you consider the case of Nwosu, and INEC, who contested under APC, he lost. He then went to, I think, Accord or one of these other parties. And the Supreme Court said it is not possible to have double nomination. And some of the candidates who have asked for opinion, who have lost in some of the parties, who now want to move to another party or some other parties like Labour, another, we've told them, you stand the chance of not just being disqualified, you also may be prosecuted. Again, like you said, under section 115, subsection 2. And unless the law is applied, this political prostitution is going to continue. Instead of fighting against injustice in one party, you simply want to migrate. And such opportunism should not be allowed. It's like these guys in the National Assembly, because you've lost nomination now, all of them are moving to other political parties. I do hope that the INEC and the leadership of the National Assembly can declare their seats vacant in line with the provisions of the law, so that you can go out there and test your popularity. So for me, double nomination is being prohibited. And those who are engaging in double nomination stand to be disqualified. And if people press, they can also be prosecuted. because this has been the problem in the past. With respect to the question by my sister on Boko Haram, I've said it publicly, and let me repeat here. If the government is determined to end terrorism in this country, we have enough committed troops that will be ready to assist the government. It's a question of political will. You need to know how powerful the Nigerian armed forces were. We restore democracy, or rather, law and order in Liberia, in Sierra Leone. Nigerian troops took part in the Congo crisis, and whenever our soldiers have taken part in United Nations peacekeeping operations, they are given special honors. let me tell you one incident. In 2017, a dictator said he would not hand over power in the Gambia after losing the presidential election. I'm talking of Yahya Jammeh. What happened? And all efforts to persuade him had failed. And ECOWAS said, we're going to move in. And the Nigerian Air Force was trying to avoid the war, just testing the ground and to see how prepared this guy was. The Air Force merely flew a plane over the presidential mansion twice. The man ran out of the house and went to hide in a hospital, nearby hospital, where he pleaded with the leadership of ECOWAS, I want to hand over. On another occasion, and this was under President Obasanjo, I think 2005 or thereabout, I think the president of Sao Tome came visiting Nigeria. And while he was there, he was removed from power by a band of soldiers. The president of Nigeria called the head of the military there. Come, what do you think you are doing? I have my guests in Abuja. I understand you have overthrown me. I am going to send only 1 battalion of soldiers to invade that country and bring you to Abuja, capture you live. We'll try you guys in Abuja. And there's a question, what do you want us to do, sir? Hand over writing. And on terms, the guys handed over and disappeared. Now, a military, a country that can restore law and order in the region is now being ridiculed by a ragtag army, untrained bandits. I defend soldiers, many of those who have been charged illegally. And my experience is that these boys tell me, and I tell the court marshal, these soldiers are ready to fight. They didn't commit an offense. They are only asking for weapons to fight. Arm us, we are ready to defend our fatherland. But the money are marked, my sister, the money are marked for procurement of arms and ammunition is criminally diverted and cornered by a coterie of generals. And that's why we're in this mess. Again, this is where we are not showing interest in the affairs of our country. 2 weeks ago, Sahara reporters carried a story that in the house of the former immediate past chief of Army Staff, who is now an ambassador, and only Nigeria can allow that kind of situation. His house had been searched by ICPC, fund running to 1.8 billion naira was taken, seized, vehicles, 3 vehicles worth about 450 million naira, and thousands of dollars and pounds and euros. Apart from that magazine, and I think People's Gazette, no other media in Nigeria, no other medium has reported that. and even for us in the civil society. We are not asking questions. But I have already submitted a paper to some relevant authority. If the guy, General Bureta, say, oh, that's not my money. Oh, that's not my house. Okay, very good. Seize the money, but you must know the source so that the criminal who has stolen the money will be put on trial. So the point I'm making is that this government set up a panel to investigate how $15 billion disappeared for procurement of arms. You can Google. Government looks for $15 billion. Many army officers were indicted. The government does not have the political will to put them on trial. So the point I'm making is that our soldiers are not motivated. Our soldiers are not equipped. Our soldiers are not encouraged to fight. And this is why we're in a mess. Again, unless we come out now and let the world know we are not a conquered people. We must get our people in the National Assembly. The money you are approving to buy arms, how are you monitoring the arms that have been procured? Are you monitoring the disbursement or the deployment of troops? So for me, it's not the business of the president just summoning service ships. If the president had traveled to Senegal yesterday, he will have summoned service ships. And they will give the impression that they are addressing the problem, and somebody will come out of the villa. Oh, we are going to deal with them. We are going to crush them. No, enough of the jokes. Enough of exposing our country to ridicule in the Committee of Nations. But we can only force this regime to take us seriously if we begin to get organized, to demand for protection for soldiers whose lives are being wasted, to demand for proper equipment of our soldiers so that they can deal with these bandits and the satanic force called Boko Haram. Thank you.
Thank you very
what
much.
does the future hold? What the future holds for us? The future, for me, we should be optimistic. But our optimism has to rest on our readiness to demand that a new Nigeria is possible. But we're not going to have a new Nigeria with the kind of charlatans who are prepared to distribute money to buy votes. And that is why we must start now. We are going to eliminate some of them. I mean, we are going to get them, some of them, out of the political system if we can begin to make their campaign issue-based. If you say it's your turn, I have no problem with that. But how do you want to address insecurity in our country? How do you want to address strikes? Which, maybe apart from one, maybe it'll be. Has any presidential candidate spoken about has to strike? No. Again, we must now ask them, what will be your solution to the problems of lack of adequate funding for universities? Will you travel abroad as a head of state? Will you go and treat yourself abroad like President Buhari? Or you are going to fix some of our hospitals? Will you complete the Lagos-Ibadan road, whose repair started in 2013? How will you create jobs for millions of unemployed people? How will you address the fact that 18 million children, according to UNICEF, are on the street? That Nigeria has the largest population of out of 2 children in the world. Unless we're asking these questions for this guy, from these guys, you know, we are not going to be taken seriously. It is by asking them this question, by challenging them, that you will know where they stand. And once they are exposed, some of them will consider their position in the electoral process. And I'm not talking of presidential candidates alone. Those guys who are coming around to ask for your votes, that they want to return to the houses of assembly or the legislative houses, we must ask them, you have been there for 4 years or 8 years or 16 years, or like the Senate president, 24 years. What bills have you sponsored? In what way have you added value to governance? And unless we are ready to do this, we are going to be taking, well, nobody is going to take us seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you so much, Femi Falana, SAN. A few people want to ask you questions. There's Mr. Ben Prince, I think he's also a lawyer. And there's also Alex Ajay. But before they ask their questions, I have one question to ask you about this Electoral Act. First of all, do you think as it is, it can deliver to us a free, fair, and transparent election? And if you have the opportunity to predict, how do you think the outcome of the elections will be in 2023, the way you are looking at things and based on your experience?
Well, again, as I said, I can tell you, there's nothing extraordinary or revolutionary in the Electoral Act of 2022. Just a few provisions that are new. In other words, we need to go beyond the law. We need to insist on the institutionalization of a culture of integrity. Unless we fight impunity, we're not going to have credible elections. If people believe they can violate the law, as they have already done in the primaries, and get away with it, they're not going to give us good elections. We must sit down with INEC, as civil society organizations, as concerned citizens. In what ways can we help INEC? Because INEC needs the political will to deal with the criminally minded politicians. We must also, I hope I won't embarrass members of the legal profession here, we must also insist that judges have no right to substitute themselves for the electorate. It's only in Nigeria where a court will say somebody who lost election should be declared the winner. No. Even if you come to the conclusion, oh, the ruling party did not conduct good primaries, we thereby nullify the election. You must give the people the opportunity to have a fresh election. But you can't say, as in the case of Bayelsa or Samfara, oh, INEC, go and declare the gentlemen and women who lost the election the winners, because we have nullified the election of the winner. No, it's not done anywhere. Or, as in the case of Imo, we hereby declare this man as the governor. And at the end of the day, the votes declared by the court are much more than the total number of votes cast in that election. Or, as in the case of Rivers, somebody whose name was not on the ballot, who never contested the election, who did not campaign, who did not vote for himself, who was never even in the country, he said, is deemed to have won an election. You cannot be deemed to have won an election. You must win an election. In actuality, it's like saying, somebody who didn't sit an exam, oh, he's deemed to have scored A, or he's deemed to have made first class without writing the exam. No. So we must let our courts know. Democracy is by the people. They must decide who their leader, who their representatives are going to be. So the courts cannot be substituted for the electorate. The final one is for all Nigerians who are enlightened, as distinguished members of this audience, we must go beyond our own concern and mobilize our people. We must sponsor debates in our homes, in our offices, and wherever we have some influence, to carry people along, to mobilize them to vote. We must get our people to register to vote. That's key, very key. Because when people do not vote, These guys simply write results. Because our elite, we are fond of watching television on the day of election because it's a holiday. We must stop that practice because whoever is elected is going to be in office for the next 8 years. And that is why we must take elections very serious. This law, yes, if it is well implemented, it will deliver good elections. But if it is badly implemented, it is going to deliver very terrible elections. But let me also tell you another fear that I have. And this fear is based on developments in Mali and Burkina Faso. If we do not address the crisis of terrorism, if we do not frontally confront and defeat terrorism, the election may be postponed indefinitely. Not more than 6 months at every given time. That is what the Constitution has provided for. If the country is fighting a war, right now, I mean, you will recall in 2015, the election was postponed for about 6 weeks. Within the timetable, I mean, within the calendar, 4 years. But now the Constitution is saying, if the country is fighting a war, at the end of Buhari's term, he may be asked to stay on for 6 months. If the war is not ended, he may be asked to stay for another period of 6 months, and so on and so forth. For me, we must ensure, because right now, and why was the election postponed for 6 weeks in 2015? Because about 6 local governments were being occupied by the terrorists. Today, I don't know how many local governments are occupied in Borno State, in Yobe, in Niger State, in Zamfara State, in Katsina State, in Kaduna, and other. And that is why we have to insist. And even not just in the north, in some part of the southeast, where people are killed and beheaded, including legislators, there are problems. And the government cannot claim that it cannot restore law and order in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. You didn't quite hit my question. I was going to ask you, who do you think is going to win the election? So I want you to note that and respond to it while you take on the question of BJ. And I'm going to enter Sonny to continue with the question and answer session. So, my brother, you have to tell me before you go today who you think is going to win that election. Mr. Ben Prince, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Thank you for looking after Grace.
Thank you, Pastor Ituah. Another senior sick. I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
Deliver his appointment because the conscience of the masses.
Thank you, sir.
This opportunity created by Pastor Ituah is always heartwarming. Sir, my question, like you rightly pointed out, the Electoral Act 2022 may not solve all the problems, but it could be managed if it is properly, executed as it were now. But the most very glaring issue that has to be taken care of is the issue of vote buying, and in fact, all electoral offenses. And that is why West panel recommended, among the recommendations was the unbundling of INEC, because it is there are so many things which are supposed to perform, and they may be trying to do so well, but others they cannot handle. For instance, the need for electoral offenses commission, because the issue of and the rest of them is not something that you can do at the venue of either the primary or the election. There are some security agency went there to show, that is what we call in security, the theory of visibility. They cannot get anything because the investigation of vote buying has to even start ahead of the election. So, I want us to achieve good electoral values from this Electoral Act, there must be establishment of Electoral Offences Commission, because that commission is like in any situation where you have a special issues, you create law to tackle it. That is how NDLA was created. That is how EFC was created. If you want to affect election in this country, the issue of Electoral Offences Commission has to be established. And I'm aware that the law has been passed, but I don't know what is holding it to be established fully. Thank you, sir. That is my observation, sir.
Well, thank you very much. The law has not been passed. The Electoral Offences Commission bill was passed by the Senate on July 14 last year. It was sent to the House of Reps. The House of Reps refused to do anything. About 3 weeks ago, I exercised my right under the Freedom of Information Act to ask the House of Reps what has happened to the bill. Got a call from the Speaker that they were going to attend to it, and I think a week ago, the matter has passed second reading in the House of Reps. So we all have to ensure that we mount further prayer on the House. And I hope many of us in this forum will want to lend our voice to the call for the passage of the Electoral Offences Commission bill into law. Thank you.
My brother, you haven't told me who's going to win our election in 2026.
Well, frankly speaking, I think it's too early to call. I mean, it's too early in the day to predict with certainty who's likely to win the elections. I think there are developments that were never contemplated in about 4-6 weeks ago, you know, that are taking place in the political terrain. Nobody ever thought in their widest imagination that young people who the government thought were defeated, you know, during the NSAS protest will now take more than a passing interest in the political development of the country. And if they can go on as they are doing, and they can mobilize young people who constitute two-thirds of the voting population, the sky may be the limit for whoever they support. You know, and having regards to the crisis that is ongoing in some of the parties, you really cannot predict yet what will happen. But what I'm going to beg all of us not to allow them to do is for us to have some irreducible minimum standards for whoever is going there, so that we are not fooled once again. All promises were made in 2014, 2015, but you can see where, you know, we have found ourselves. This summer, we must learn from the terrible experience we are going through and insist that the campaign be issue-based and not a campaign based on primordial sentiments or the size of the pockets of candidates. You know, you are going to give me stolen money. I have a duty to expose you, to also find out if you really want to serve the country, why are you spending billions to buy votes? So I think this, for me, that is the best way to go for now. We also must encourage people to participate in the electoral process. Maybe in the next 3 months, we may be able to speak confidently who may win the election. Again, Pastor, as I had warned, let us not concentrate all our efforts on the president's. I mean, for instance, if you had the National Assembly, peopled by committed patriots, the president will have been called to order on terror, on the fight, on the war on terror. And let me just tell you this. Section 305 of the Constitution provides that the president shall declare a state of emergency if there is a breakdown of law and order in any part of the country or in the entire federation. And such a declaration of emergency will be ratified or endorsed by the National Assembly. Since 2015, The guy in Abuja has never looked at the Constitution, and the National Assembly has never drawn his attention to it. Again, look at the question of state police. Our governors allow the federal government to have civil defense, EFCC, ICPC, customs, FRS, all of them are allowed to bear weapons. But the state security agencies are not allowed. This is the time for us now to ask questions. If the Constitution, Section 214 says there shall be only one Nigerian police force, you have created other police forces. Why are you now saying that my local government or my state government cannot also acquire weapons for those who are defending us? Unless we put this question squarely before our politicians, we're not going to get it right. If I tell you, Pastor, some of the rights that have been granted to Nigerians by law, apart from the Constitution, apart from Chapter 4, I think I made it clear before, sir. No Nigerian shall be taken to a police station without the police calling the relation, without giving you the opportunity to call your relation or your next of kin to say, I am in Panti police station. If you don't have the means, the police under the law shall call for you. Nobody shall be made to write a statement in a police station without access to his lawyer. If you don't have a lawyer, the police shall contact the legal aid council for you to assign you a lawyer, even at the police station, not to talk of going to court. Under that law, I'm talking of two laws, and the General Criminal Justice Act, as well as the Police Establishment Act 2020. Now, how many Nigerians are aware that once a month, the magistrate in any magisterial district in Nigeria shall visit all the police stations in the area with a view to releasing those who should not be in detention, those who should be granted bail, or those who should be ordered to be taken to court. Nobody shall be tortured in Nigeria. There is an anti-torture act since 2017, yet people are dying of torture. So for me, for us in the human rights community, we're trying to assemble these laws. And we're going to challenge those who want to govern our country. What is your reaction? Where is your commitment to these laws? So that you don't get there and say, oh, we didn't make any demand. In some of them, we are going to insist that you give us a commitment. Or now, not just to say, oh, I'm going to implement this law. How are you going to implement them? Just today now, or yesterday, not today, the IG has just announced, Inspector General of Police, that the newly recruited police personnel are going to be posted to their local government. That has been our demand for years. You must understand intelligence gathering before you can function as a policeman or woman. If you don't speak the local language, how do you want to police the community? The last one on the rights of our people. Every police station in Nigeria, we're just going to court now next week. Every police station in Nigeria shall have a desk manned by a lawyer, a human rights lawyer, a lawyer, to ensure that human rights are respected. Human rights of suspects are respected. We've been pleading with the NBA. This should be at least 5,500 jobs for your member, because there are about 5,500 police stations in Nigeria. So if there is a police station and there's a lawyer assigned by law to make sure that my human rights are not violated, and you want to torture me in a cell, that lawyer will run into trouble under that law. So for me, these are areas, different areas, that we can get those who want to rule us to be committed. Lagos is the 5th largest economy in Africa. Pastor, beyond this, our educational program, I beg you, next budget session in Lagos, you must mobilize us to go to the House of Assembly. We must sit down in the gallery so that we know the items contained in the budget. But right now, we are not there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Falana. So we'll take the next set of questions. My name is Sonny. I'll be standing in briefly until Pastor Ituah comes back. We'll take 4 questions at a row, and I will please plead that we'll limit our questions to probably just 1, and we'll make it brief. Don't tell a long story around it. And I will also ask Mr. Falana to be straight and direct to the point because we have about 30 minutes to go. So we'll take Alex, Arije, Samuel Dada, Eyitemi Taire, and Uncle Dayo in that order, the first 4. After that, I will take Stephen Lawson, Eshak Philip, PFA, Ogo O, and Femi Olowe. So, Alex, you go first.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to ask the son, what can we do with the 1979 Constitution? Is there anything we can do with it? Because right now I hear a lot of controversy with it, that the military guys just dumped that thing, to the country, and nothing has been done with it since then, and no amendment, nothing whatsoever. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'm talking about the 1979 Constitution.
Yes. All right.
Is there anything we can
do? Or the amendment. All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I can take the other question so that we can save time.
Okay, sir. Sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, I want you to just take away my ignorance from this explanation of mine. A candidate in the last election that was a vice president left the party and went to a new party. Under 48 hours, he went to a new party. Under 5 days, he became the flag bearer of that party. Is there any election or electoral process or law that can impede this person before or after election? Or within the new party, anybody can rise up against him and say, according to the party constitution, that he is not eligible to become a flag bearer? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. 3.
Okay, good evening, sir. My name is Eyitemi Taire. Some quick questions. In your opinion, sir, to what degree has the Nigerian armed forces and the government been infiltrated by Boko Haram and ISWAP? That's my first question. Second is, what do you think is the future of Nigeria? That's from the perspective of restructuring and a possible breakup. Then third, very quickly, who are you supporting for president in 2023, sir, and why?
Hey, Tayo, you have gone beyond brief, but Uncle Dayo, quickly, thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My first question will go by way of the people doing vote buying. Now, there's a provision in the Electoral Act on how to punish them. But I heard, I was listening to a radio interview, and somebody said INEC is not empowered to try these people, to charge them to court. Is there a provision for INEC to try them? That's the first one. Then the second one is, sir, do you think we are ripe as a nation for technological voting, that's online voting for our national election? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The first question on the 1999 Constitution, the amendments have been forwarded to the states by the National Assembly. National Assembly has, the members have voted, should have been the other way around, but they have started the voting. They've now passed, they've now sent the amendments to the state because they need 2/3 majority of the members of the House of Assembly of each of the states. So we're expecting them to turn in the final report. On double nomination, I think we discussed this earlier, that under the current electoral law, double nomination is not allowed. You cannot lose your nomination in one party and then you move to another party. There is already a judgment of the Supreme Court on that, and the current law does not support that. So any party that takes a risk by allowing somebody who has lost election somewhere, and you give him your ticket, of course, you stand the chance of having the election annulled, even if he wins the election. On Ituah and FG, I don't know the agreement the federal government has with repentant Boko Haram terrorists, they call them. I don't know. These agreements have not been made public. All the government claim is that these guys, some of them are repentant and they now want to be integrated into the Nigerian society. The government claim to have sent some of them, for training, and that they have acquired enough knowledge to be part of this society. I do hope that some of these guys, the terrorists, are not playing on the intelligence of a government official, with what is going on. On the future of Nigeria, I've said it, and the future of Nigeria is bright if only we are ready to play our role monitoring the government. We also must encourage good people to contest election. We must not leave politics to professional politicians alone. Many of us in this forum are professionals, so we can go to politics. And since you have other addresses, you are likely to be more dedicated to nationhood, nation building, than those who believe, if they are defeated, that is the end of life. On who I'm going to support, I know I haven't made up my mind yet. I haven't been able to analyze the candidates. Ideally, I would have wanted a candidate, that will contest campaign like Bernie Sanders in America, talking of turning, the tide against neoliberal policies of the IMF and World Bank. I would like a leader, I would like a political party or a candidate that will challenge the status quo. Candidate that will not see himself as, giving us our rights, but I will recognize our rights. Or like fella will say, you can't touch me, my human rights, because they are my property. So that's the kind of leadership I want, that will say the resources of Nigeria are enormous. We are running some countries. Therefore, instead of running to London for medical treatment, where you have 10,000 Nigerian doctors officially registered, it should be possible to bring them home and rebuild our hospitals so that our people can get, the best medical treatment that our resources can offer. So that's the kind of, I haven't identified one yet. I'm still in search of, candidates that will be able to make me proud as a Black man, as a Nigerian. On electoral offenses, Section 145 of the Electoral Act 2022 has vested INEC with the power to prosecute electoral offenders. INEC, however, says that it doesn't have the capacity because it's otherwise engaged. But I think the Resident Electoral Commissioner in Akwa Ibom State, Mr. Mike Guinea, has proved that wrong. Mike Guinea has ensured that some professors or lecturers who engage in a false announcement of results were charged. I think one of them has been jailed. I think 2 others are still standing trial. With respect to what just happened in the Ekiti State, I can confess, I can say here publicly, I'm in touch with the INEC chairman and also the EFCC chairman, and both of them have assured me that those guys arrested in Ekiti are going to be brought to book. And I think all of us should mount prayer, on the electoral body to ensure, for me, if INEC can defend civil cases, why can you not also not engage lawyers to prosecute electoral offenders? And I've reminded the chairman of INEC that in 2011, when Professor Jega was INEC chairman, because he was former president of FASU, so we've known ourselves, I've been ASU lawyer for some years. And we met with him to say, why don't you guys try some electoral offenders? And he said, how do we go about it? We don't have a fund for it. Okay. We contacted the Nigerian Bar Association, and we're able to get young lawyers who volunteered, at some minimal cost to prosecute electoral offenders for any. And that was what we did that year. Again, we are trying to see whether that can be done, this year and 2023. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Falana. We'll take the next set of 4 questions, and I hope that we'll all be as brief as the first set. We'll start with Stephen Lawson, Femi Olowe, and PFA. Then we take Jerry Olan. So, Stephen Lawson, you can start.
All right. Good evening. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
There is a rumor that this particular present administration is bent on tenure elongation. How do you react or respond to that, sir? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Femi, no, there's Femi Olowe. Go ahead.
Let's go on.
Okay, good evening. Yeah, good evening. This is Femi Olowe. Okay. First, I want to say thank you, Barrister Femi Falana. I contacted Barrister Femi Aborishade as you instructed. I quickly want to go to, I cannot call it question, but some observations and suggestions. First, this happened this year in Ibadan at the INEC office around Oluyole. We were there, and some Hausa guys came with their motorbikes, like totaling up to 30 or 50. And we were all there. They were not answering us. They were not attending to us. So all of a sudden, those guys came in, made a call to whoever, I don't know. And the officials came, opened the gates, and asked all of them to come in. And they attended to them. So that happened in Ibadan here.
For registration or what?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, for registration. Now, I have seen that in Nigeria, we have a lot of problems. And part of it is the fact that our constitution today Electoral Act does not support independent candidates. I think one of the things that you can do for us and all other well-meaning Nigerians that have status. So I think one of the things they need to do is to ensure that we have electoral support for independent candidates. And so also because I don't see people who are, for example, the grassroots politics today in Nigeria. This is where money sharing, this is where it comes in. With the little experience I have in politics, I realize that at the wards where party meetings happen, this is where sponsoring happens, this is where they bring money, this is where they share it, this is where they conclude plans on how to go about election, not on the election day. So I think also if we're going to move away from the vicious cycle that we have found ourselves, we promote independent candidates who has no root at all, and we also need to find the means to disband or destabilize grassroots politics. Please, I may not have the right word to describe it, but what I mean by this grassroots is where all these meetings, party meetings are happening, and where sharing of money, sponsoring, when you hack somewhere, you say somebody is sponsoring the party, this is where they come and share the money. And that is why it may be difficult for candidates like Obi to win the election. And that is why people are saying that it doesn't have structure. It doesn't have structure because there is no way sharing of money from him can trickle down to the areas where we live. I have a lot of points to share, but I don't know if I can have the opportunity to sit with you at any point in time. So as to talk. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. The next person, go ahead. PFA. Unmute yourself.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. We are talking about leadership. I've really enjoyed your presentation. And leadership entails the leader taking care of the electorates. And again, you talk about security. And the advice you will give to the electorate in terms of choosing their leaders is one of the things I think I want to ask you. And also the security we are talking about. You made some 4 references where the general government stopped some coup or stuff like that. And we are the leader around to hospital. Does the Nigerian army still have that strength for now? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next person, that's Olan, Jerry. You can unmute yourself, Jerry Olan.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, it's nice to be on this platform, and thanks for the insight. What I want to speak about is that I'm actually of the opinion that one of our biggest challenge as a nation is the structure of our parties. Like, take for instance, you have APC, PDP, but if you talk about what does APC stand for, what does PDP stand for, it is something that we can't even pinpoint and say this is what they stand for. So as an ordinary Nigerian, if I start voting for candidates, by voting a candidate, if you have only one candidate that is good in one party, the other people that canvass for votes through those candidates, they might not be as good as that. Meaning that, and the thing about it is that government should not be central. It should not just be centralized. We want to be government in the central level and in every continuum of it. So I feel to some extent, our biggest challenge is actually in the party structure. Our party has failed us. And so it means the output of that party is not fair reaping. So and I feel the best way for us is that we have to like, we should not just be like, okay, we are picking a candidate to come and say this is what we want to do. If a candidate come and say this is what we want to do, there are people from the party that are maybe in the electoral stuff that are not even putting a bill that could support that goal. So I feel to some extent the best way for us is to change the party itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think our I don't know whether I can call you Leonard. Mr. Falana, you can answer questions, and then we'll take the last of questions after this. But you can answer those ones.
I thought those were the last questions. All right. On tenure elongation, I'm saying that it is provided in the Constitution that if we are fighting a war, the tenure of the government may be extended, but not more than 6 times at any given time. So if you don't want to do, if the president says, I'm not interested in a 3rd term, yet no concrete steps are being taken to stop the war on terror, for me, there are contradictions there. And that is the point I tried to make earlier. On registration, I will not support independent candidates. it has its own problems. And it's also against African culture. It's not, we have no room for individualism. We believe in collectivities, we gather together, in clubs, in traditional organizations, in collectives, so you don't talk of, and just imagine, if you allow independent candidates in Nigeria, you may have about 1 million people, or even say, even 100,000. How will I cope with that? How are you going to print the ballot papers? So refrain from being defeated. Political parties are not what you have now, likely. Political parties in those days, every member contributed their membership due. A few people could handle one project or that. You ask people to use your house as a meeting point. But in those days, political parties never held any meeting in the villa or in the office of the governor. The governors or the president never paid. The president never paid, or the governor never paid political parties. The governor will have to pay his own, membership fee, like all the members. So the governors were not the leaders of political parties. They are chairmen of political parties. So let's go back to what the business of running political parties as independent organs of the government. It's the political party that installed the government, and not the other way around. So the governor is an ordinary member of the party, cannot be higher than the party, cannot be higher than the electorate. And unless we insist, Mr. Governor, we're not coming to hold any meeting in your office or in your house because it's against the law. 2, we're not going to allow you to contribute more than your own membership fee. If we begin to take ownership of political parties, we can then defeat money banks. But right now, it is governors from their security vote that run political parties. When it comes to choosing delegates, you go and house them in hotels, and on the day of the election, you bring them to the venue. Unless you look at each of these problems and begin to mobilize to address them, we are going to continue to bemoan our fate. On electronic voting, excuse me, I fully support electronic voting. And I think that is the way to go. But I think INEC is still experimenting with a number of, problems. I think ultimately we may have no choice but to embrace electronic voting. Sharing of money in politics because we don't share ideas. I've contested election before, if you must know, and we never contested on the basis of money. Just simply tell people this is what we want to do. You can bring your money. We have no problem. If you want to take the money, but vote for your conscience, vote for ideas, vote for programs. And in this part of the world, what we grew up to know was a situation whereby you are told, vote for us so that we can give your children free education, so that you can have access to free health. But here, there are no cardinal programs now. You used to talk of 4 cardinal programs of the APC or 10 cardinal programs, 10 care program of the NCP. Today, the only cardinal program is money, money, money. And you are not going to distribute your own money so recklessly. a lot of this fund is stolen from the public treasury. And that is why we have to educate our people to take their destiny in their own hands. And you're not going to do that if you are going to collect 1,000 naira or 5,000 naira to vote for anybody. On the power of Nigeria, I was talking of 2017. I was talking of Yahya Jammeh in 2017, that the Air Force merely flew a plane and the man ran away, ran out of the state house, you know. And the man I'm talking about, this may be a lesson for all of us, even though he's in exile. We are pursuing him to account for the killings that took place while he was in power for 22 years. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I think we'll have time to just take about 2 or 3 more questions. Let me see who the lucky people will be.
I think that will be the last questions, Mr. Moderator.
Apologize to all the other people if we are not able to take your questions. Yes, sir. Wahid, Salami, Oluwaseyi, and Mev, I truly apologize. So go ahead now.
I can't hear you.
Wahid, go ahead. Just be very brief, yeah.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My concern is about the issue we have with prosecuting criminal cases. I've had 2 funny experiences. I'm an estate surveyor and valuer, and I manage a plaza. One of my security guards was involved in breaking into a shop. The guy stole phones, went to sell it. We ended up tracing this phone. We've been on it now for about 1 year, 6 months. We are still in court trying to prosecute this guy. It's been very, very difficult. It's been one adjournment after the other. Prosecuting criminal cases in Nigeria is very, very difficult. Please, what do you think we can do to review the laws concerning prosecution of criminal cases?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Leah,
well, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good evening, sir. I first of all want to commend the people that initiated this Zoom meeting, and really I must commend them and plead with them. Since we have 6 geopolitical areas, it will be very great, very credible if you people can help us to network through the 6 geopolitical area so that people can have access to be part and parcel of this decision making. A wonderful hearing from our brother, our son, Femi Falana, which he spoke very widely. Sir, I have few things to share here. Number one, how convincingly can 30,000 policemen to be deployed to a state just to monitor election, and the killing, incessant killing in other states were not taken? How convincingly can this be done? Secondly, I am of the opinion when we talk of changing the leadership in this country, specifically, I know the leadership of the president is 2 tenure, and the leadership of the governors 2 tenure. But the leadership of the legislative, that is the lower and the upper chamber, cannot be countable because they are the policymakers. And people, just like we know that the present Senate is running into 23 or 22 to 23 years in the upper chamber. Sir, with the rate of mortgaging the good candidates in our various constituencies, mortgaging financially, you are permanent in that office and you owe the funds, you owe the structure of the leadership and the security. a poor man, a responsible man in a constituency with his good humanitarian services purchase his home. And eventually that one is seated there without even relocating, standing because he has the fund. How convincingly can a poor man or a highly respected man will change the leadership when he's there? Sir, I think to this situation, we should, I think our son should buttress the issue. Can't we change the narrative of the leadership of the lower and the upper chamber, even from the House of Assembly? Because we need, for election purposes, I think we cannot go on delegates again, because that issue of delegates, more especially when I talk of delegate, women inclusion is objected. Women are not part and parcel of the decision making. What do you want us as women? Even for you not to succumb the 5 bill petitions we render to the House, the Senate and the reps we presented, it was thrown away. So what do you want women to speak in this country? You continue to tell us we should come out with our children, youth, and we are being killed. We that elect you, you frontier the project of killing communities and other things. What do you want us to do? And lastly, sir,
okay,
please,
no,
what
I
can you,
think you
Please
what
allow
can
her.
you,
I make a case for her.
Leah, it's okay.
I
Thank
have
you very
about 10
much.
of them. I have 10 issues
I
I presented. You know, women have not been talking in this, so I think, sir.
Talk now.
I'm so sorry. I have a lot of burdens in my mind that I have to flow here. But sir, how can you motivate women to be hard on this wonderful country in Nigeria? We were depressed. We only give allotment of women leader. That is all. You silence us, and we have capable women. How convincingly Falana will help us in women's inclusion and indigenous status quo? Thank you.
Thank you.
There are many. Let me just be patient and respect gentlemen in the house.
All right, sir. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Before the son answers and wraps up, Marvin, you have 10 seconds to ask your question. Marvis, 10 seconds.
All right. Good evening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I'll try to be very fast. I had a lot to say, but a lot of people have said everything. I'll just say thank you for hosting this session, and I hope we can keep doing it. Now, I got a suggestion earlier today when I was discussing with some groups, and they said there is a need for us to have a party called the Professionals. It's high time we leave the space of activism and have a political party that we, people like us here, people like learned Barrister Falana, and everybody that is here are responsible for. I've been a member of COA party, and I know for a fact that many of the other parties outside the APC and the PDP left to about the weakest of us. We need to build political structure. We need to build a political party that has its own systems and runs properly, not at the whims and caprices of anyone, not at the whims and caprices of any hero or any good guy, but about process, procedures. Everybody talks about restructuring, but none of our parties are run in the way we want to structure the country. So we need a proper political party. And that's just I don't know if it's something we would like to consider, because every time when election is coming close, we always have this kind of sessions. And once elections are over, we disperse. We need to have a political party and a political party culture. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Stan. I think Mr. Falana can answer those 3 questions. We do still have a lot of people. Mr. Falana, do you have more time you want to give? I don't know, for all these people, maybe everybody 10 seconds.
How many of them?
There are many. I have about 6 people here.
6. Where's the 10 seconds? Why not?
Okay, if they can do 10 seconds, I hope you will note them so that some of them may be the same. So very quickly, Felix, 10 seconds. Felix, Adedoyin, Adeola, Kelvin, Biba, and Ade. No, I won't take you anymore, BA. No more.
Thank you.
ahead.
My name is Jack. I want to be very brief, just as you rightly say. Political registration for voters card, why can't we have a system that works with the database of the country if we have one? And I think many political parties are aware that this registration is digital. And why is it that it is difficult for INEC to certify people after registration and produce their cards immediately?
Okay. All right, thank you. How are they doing?
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Sir, I want to speak on the culture of impunity. I listened to one of the presidential candidates concerning why Nigeria is challenged about electricity, energy, and so on. He was able to speak that they gave out money to contractors. And
okay, the question, sir, just go straight.
We need to strengthen accountability, the rule of law in a democratic valley. This is still missing. Most of the contractors are still alive. What efforts can be made? Or if they have not been made yet, how do we prosecute those who have left the nation in darkness? Thank you, sir.
All right, Adeola, thank you very much for being brief. Adeola. Kelvin. Okay. Biba.
Thank you, distinguished San. Thank you, Pastor Ituah. I contested to be the governor of Oyo State in 2019. So I've heard what people are saying about setting up a new party. It's not going to work. It's either A or B for now. San, I'm wondering how we can change the mentality of the principal ESCOs in the parties, or how we can remove those who are solely bent on selling their votes from the structure of this major two parties. I would have thought the governors of each state should have done it when they had the normal cycle of changing principal ESCOs in a party. However, I believe because many of them wanted their second term, so they didn't bother changing, the bad eggs amongst the good ones. So how do we, uproot this bad people? Because if we don't get that right, no good candidate can go by unless you're ready to pay them big time. Thank you very much. Sorry, my name is Bolan.
Okay, Bolanle, thank you very much. I think I followed your campaign in 2019. All right, San, you will take all these questions, and finally, you will also tell us before you go, if you were president of Nigeria today, how would you be handling the insecurity? What will you do differently? So I allow you to take that question, and that will be the final one. This one I just asked.
Thank you very much. On delay in the prosecution of cases, in a place like Lagos, so I think we have about 158 magistrates, but so many cases are coming to them. Our courts have not been modernized. They still write, they take evidence longhand, and there are so many cases daily that we need to improve on our courts. We need to build more courts. We need to appoint more magistrates and judges so that we really can speed up cases. And we also have to be modernized. For instance, I practice law outside Nigerian courts. Because of COVID-19, I've not made any physical appearance in the ECOWAS court in Abuja, since 2020. Ditto for the African Court on Human and People's Rights in Tanzania. But here, our judges expect me to come to Abuja to move a motion, which, I can move in my office. So these are some of the problems, but I would rather advise that you should do a petition to the Attorney General of Lagos State. And one of the things we are doing, the law now says all prosecutors must be lawyers, not police personnel. But a place like Lagos hasn't really carried that out. So we're also mounting pressure on the government to allow these cases to be prosecuted by lawyers in accordance with Section 60 of the Police Establishment Act and Section 106 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. So we're working on that we can speed up cases. On how we can mobilize other people in the country, my sister. I think this program is not restricted to Lagos, and that is why we're trying to reach as many people as possible through this virtual means. And I think this, even if we had had a meeting in a hall here, it will have been so inconvenient for all of us to be driving there, having regard to congestion, in a place like Lagos or other parts of the country. So I think, Pastor Ituah, we should continue along this line. Maybe we should send the notices of this meeting, to more people across the country so that they can also participate more actively. On women in politics, difficult. My sister talks of the position of women leader. Because we have no time, but let me just say this: I contested under the NCP, National Conscience Party. I also led that party for about 2 years. I never allowed any meeting to be held in the night because all the other political parties hold their meetings in the night. And why we did that was that we wanted to engage more women to participate. When you hold meetings of parties in the night, usually they start around 11, 12, midnight, and they go until about 4, 5 a.m. Most women who are either taking care of their family or their children cannot go and be holding meetings with, other men, unless your husband is, your husband's men are also going to attend the same meeting. So these are some of the inhibitions faced by women. And so our women in these parties must insist that we don't want night meetings, we cannot attend night meetings, and we want to be part of this process of decision making. What happens is that when men have taken out the post, then, sorry, there is no woman here, so let us give a position to women. So that's what they call women leader. But madam, I have this sharing news for you. After the National Assembly had rejected all the bills that were meant to enhance the participation of women in politics to guarantee equality in the country, my wife, won a case in Abuja where the court has now recognized 35% representation for women in all political positions in the country. It's no longer a demand, it's now a law. I do hope this judgment will be implemented, very soon. On party of professionals, as my sister from Oyo State has said, you cannot have party of professionals, not possible. Don't let's run away from the business of participating in the politics of our country. All professionals can do is to form a movement at best. And we had this during the fight against the military. We had people like Pastor Ituah, Elisa Agbakoba, and the rest of them who were involved in people we call concerned professionals. They were really concerned. And we worked together. And it is possible to also do that now. In each of the parties, you can have concerned professionals because there are professionals in politics and there are professional politicians. So as professionals in politics, we can form a committee, but there's no way you are going to have a party exclusively run by professionals alone. I think there's another one. Okay, thank you. I've listened to, and I'm going to take it up with this leadership of INEC, because we have insisted. Everybody who wants to register must be given the opportunity to register on accountability, rule of law.
All right. Are you done,
It's a
sir?
collective fight. Whenever we know any contractor has abandoned agents, yeah, no, just 2 minutes. Whenever we know any contractors who are to the CPC or DFCC and pursue the matter, and if there are problems, you can involve some of us or some of the other anti-graft agencies, NGOs, on change of leaders of political parties. Again, unless you mobilize, it's going to be difficult. The mentality will not change as long as you have people who have no other addresses other than politics. As long as our politics is dominated by unquote charlatans, there is no way you are going to make any progress. And that is why the rest of us cannot leave politics for professional politicians. We must get engaged and we must go there. I don't say it's a dirty terrain. We can make it clean because those who are determining our fate have no idea about the governance of the country, about the rule of law, about constitutionalism. And that is why we should all get involved. Yes, if I have the opportunity to influence the affairs of our country right now, I am going to, particularly security-wise, because of my involvement in the defense of army officers and soldiers, I have an idea of what is required. Section 217 of the Constitution provides that the armed forces shall be adequately equipped. There's no way I'm going to send young people to the battlefront without adequately equipping them. Again, as I said earlier, security is technology driven. I do not know why the NSA will say state government cannot acquire drones to monitor activities all over the country. That would be number one. Number two is to ensure that our soldiers are motivated, their conditions of service will have to be improved, and we have to take them seriously as human beings, and we have to encourage them, and you have to respect them, and make sure you don't post them to the war front when you have not made any arrangement for them. Of course, we have to investigate as a matter of urgency in the last 5 years at the very least. The money that has been budgeted for defense, what has the money been used for? And with a committed leadership, I can assure you, our soldiers are ready to fight, our soldiers are ready to defend the country. But right now, there's a lot of sabotage going on. And you must, if you want to fight the war on terror, you must contact countries and organizations that are ready to collaborate with you. It cannot be a one-man, one-nation affair because terrorism is almost a global phenomenon. ISWAP is in the entire West African sub-region. And part of the problem we had was the carelessness of Nigeria. When Gaddafi was overthrown, we allowed all the weapons that came out of Gaddafi's armory to fall into wrong hands. The country must be prepared to get some of those weapons back and put them in our armor and let our armed forces use them. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, my brother.
Okay.
Always and always, it's a joy and a lot of learning and excitement to listen to you. Thank you for all that you have done in Nigeria and all that you continue to do. My prayer is that our efforts will not be in vain. Especially you, Patu, told me a few other people that have been in the trenches for so long. I pray that come 2023, we can have the kind of government that Nigeria truly needs and deserves. And I'd like to encourage everyone. One of the things that Mr. Falana said today was that we should go and be observers at our various states assemblies and see what they're doing and march to the National Assembly. He challenged us that we should go there and at least observe and make our comments known. I think that's one of the things that we must try and do. We all must really, really get involved and not just be conversationalists or armchair Nigerians who are not paying attention to what's going on. I think we are all culpable to some extent because we sat back and we looked at our nation being taken over and being captured. We have to all get involved. We're not going to be waiting and saying, it doesn't concern me, let the other man do this and that. No, we all have to get involved one way or the other. Those who can run for office, let them run for office. Those who are going to vote, let them all go and get their PVCs and vote according to knowledge, not according to sentiments or according to their stomachs. And those who are going to be critics of bad governance or whatever, let them continue to be critics. And those who are going to be part of parties to take decisions, let them do so. But let every Nigerian enlighten themselves and get involved to take an important decision for the benefit of everyone in this country. And let's all try our best to be objective. It's not a question of tribe, race, religion, or color. It's a question of who is best to govern this country at the various stages, at local government, councillorship, state government, presidential, the various houses of assembly. Who are the best people that will speak in the interest of the generality of Nigerians? That's what we're looking for, and no longer all this divisive and non-progressive politics that we have. We need discipline. We need to get rid of corruption. We need honesty. We need truth. We need boldness. We need visionary people to take charge of the affairs of this country, not those who think that Nigeria is their entitlement and who are going there to share and divide our resources. I think we can no longer afford that. God will help us and God will be with us. Once again, Femi Falana, SAN.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. God bless you. We have to catch up.
Thank you, for sure.
All right. We'll
I'll
catch
call
up.
you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good night, everyone. Have an enjoyable weekend and Baraka de Salah to our Muslim brothers. Enjoy the Salah. If you are dividing ram, make sure the ram carries and goes round. And everybody have a happy
Pastor,
and restful
you only
long
wish
weekend.
our Muslim brothers. What are the Muslim sisters?
Good night. Our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Good night, everyone.
No,
Good night,
Good
night.
Good night.
Muslim brothers and sisters.